Welcome, friends. Today's presentation is on Masters as Ideals and Examples. The work of this lodge is based on the message of the ages that HPB named Theosophy and transmitted to the world. Her steadfast colleague in this endeavor was William Q. Judge. Next Sunday, we will commemorate his contribution to humanity. Our aim is to keep the pure teachings of Theosophy alive for others wishing to find them. At 12:30 p.m. every first and third Sunday of each month, we read and discuss selected theosophical writings. We are currently discussing The Key to Theosophy by H.P. Blavatsky. So we will also introduce the message of Theosophy at Culpeper Garden in Arlington, Virginia, from 1 to 2:30 p.m. on Wednesday, April 19. Please help us with your attendance or however you can, as we all try to understand, sustain, and live this common sense philosophy. This lodge continues to be guided by the declaration printed on the back of our program. This is here in print, as I pointed out, and it's also on our website. In our meetings, studies, observations of nature's laws in action, meditation, and interaction with others, we work to control our thoughts and otherwise make Theosophy a living power in our lives. And we focus on achievement of a truer realization of the self, a profounder conviction of universal brotherhood. We hold that the unassailable basis for union among Theosophists, wherever and however situated, is similarity of aim, purpose, and teaching. We have neither offices nor constitutions and bylaws, and this aim, the similarity of aim, purpose, and teaching, is our sole bond. We regard as Theosophists all who are engaged in the true service of humanity, without distinction of race, creed, sex, condition, or organization, and we welcome to our association all those who are in accord with our declared purposes and who desire to fit themselves by study and otherwise to be the better able to help and teach others. The true Theosophist belongs to no cult or sect, yet belongs to each and all. Today's reading is from the Voice of the Silence, beginning on page 45, on the two ways to the pure state of bliss. The open way, no sooner hast thou reached its goal, will lead thee to reject the bodhisattvic body and make thee enter the thrice glorious state of Dharmanakaya, which is oblivion to the world and men forever. The second way leads also to the paranirvanic bliss, but at the close of kalpas without number. Nirvana is gained and lost from boundless pity and compassion for the world of deluded mortals. But it is said, the last shall be the greatest. Samyak Sambuddha, the teacher of perfection, gave up himself for the salvation of the world by stopping at the threshold of nirvana, the pure state. So thou hast the knowledge now concerning the two ways. Thy time will come for choice, O thou of ego soul, when thou hast reached the end and passed the 7 portals. Thy mind is clear, no more art thou entangled in delusive thoughts. For thou hast learned all. Unveiled stands the truth, and looks thee sternly in the face. She says, sweet are the fruits of rest and liberation for the sake of self, but sweeter still the fruits of long and bitter duty, a renunciation for the sake of others, of suffering fellow man. He who becomes Pratrika Buddha makes his obeisance but to himself. The Bodhisattva who has won the battle, who holds the prize within his palm, yet says, in his divine compassion, for others' sake, the great reward I yield, accomplishes the greater renunciation. The Savior of the world is he. Behold the goal of bliss and the long path of love are at the furthest end. Thou canst choose either, O aspirant to sorrow, throughout the coming cycles. Om Vajrapani Om. And now for today's talk, Masters as Ideals and Examples.
Welcome, friends. This term, Masters of Wisdom, we also refer to them as adepts, initiates, and mahatmas. This word is very important to understand because it has 2 words in it. Maha, which is gray, and Atma, which represents the soul. So we're in fact referring to great souls that come before us intermittently all through the historical age plus previous to the historical age. The great knowledge that has been gathered is kept by the great souls that keep it for future generations, and when it is the right time, they bring out a certain part of it because it is a tremendous amount of knowledge. Not all of it can be given to the world, nor are we at a stage where we can really understand it. So small amounts of it is given to different nations around the world at different times according to the mind and the development of the soul that comes intermittently. Because, as you know, humanity advances physically, it advances psychologically, it advances mentally, and it advances also spiritually, but not all at the same time. So according to the age, that information is given out. What we need to understand is that that word means that it inspires those who understand the meaning of it and believe in it, devotion, fearlessness, hope, and energy, which it is necessary for the dissemination of the philosophy they bring out. And if we are not convicted, or if we don't have this conviction internally that this is the truth that is being given out, then how many of us are going to actually follow it, and what are we going to do with the information that is brought out? Well, as you're aware, the latest one came in the 19th century through HPB Blavatsky and her colleague, Mr. Judge. The other partner in that triadic essence was Olcott, who was the president of the TS and who made tremendous effort for the formation of a society that could actually retain the purity of that knowledge. So in this word, Maha-Atma is compounded all of the evolutionary process. It means reincarnation, karma, the sevenfold division, retribution, reward, a struggle, failure, success, illumination, power, and a vast embracing love for men. Now that last one is very important. For men. So, when these beings, and they are great souls, when these beings come, you have to remember they have a particular message to deliver. And it is delivered to impress either the mind or the spiritual aspect of us. And the 19th century effort, when it was brought out, was faced with tremendous opposition to it. Why? We should ask why. And we will answer. If we are going to talk about the Mahatmas, and we truly want to know if they exist, then we should read the Secret Doctrine, because you would in no long time come to the conclusion that no human being could come up with such a philosophy. It isn't the brainchild of one person that is in that book. It is many generations of the masters who verified the information one after the other and only retained that part of it that could be verified by all of them. So it is the truth as expressed in what? Symbols. I'm not writing that correctly, am I?
Switch the M and the Y.
A and Y. Yeah. My brain is switching things. Thank you. Symbols. And she tells us at the beginning of her Secret Doctrine that all the knowledge that has been gained up to this point is in that universal language, symbols. So, when these beings come in front of the civilization that they're bringing this message to, we said that there's a tremendous amount of opposition to it. Why? Because, especially in the West, the dogma has become accepted. People have generally forgotten the message of the soul, that they are the soul, that they occupy a body during incarnation, because karma and reincarnation unfortunately has been taken out of the message in the West. So we have generally accepted that we are here just this one time, that at the end of this one lifetime we just go to rest, and that's all of it, that we are physical beings with a soul, and at death that separates, and somehow that's all of it. Now, in the 7 principles of the Theosophy of philosophy, the philosophy of Theosophy, which is described in the Secret Doctrine, it shows who or what we are, how that progression occurs, what is the highest that can be achieved, and how to go about achieving it. So then, what is the significance of the masters in that scheme? How is it possible without them to reach to perfection? because these human beings achieve this perfection because they are human beings, not because they were something else. So if we remove them, then we are taking something out of that chain of progression, and then they become a missing link. So there is a Guruparampara chain. So from the most recent to the initiator, there's a chain of teachers. And they are perfected human beings. So, these perfected human beings have achieved perfection because they discovered who they are, what their aim in life is, and followed it to its culmination. If they have done it, so can we. We are human also, and all of the powers which are active in them is dormant in us. If we can activate it, we can also become perfected as they are. I will read to you a section from this article which explains the Master's Lodge. Starting here. This is HPB. She says, she's talking about the myths all over the universe. She says the myths contain the truth. Historical facts are written by those who are the winners most of the time, and they do not always express the truth. It is bent towards the winning side, or whoever is writing it and what their understanding of it at that time is. It says here, among such myths was one about the great sacrifice of the Master Soul, who renounced his freedom to accept the woes of bodily birth, the self-chosen incarnation of the Lord of Compassion for the sake of humanity. The central fact of the mystic life that every human soul sacrifices himself and is crucified on the fourfold cross of matter is but a variant of that same profound truth. This fact the Lodge impressed on the minds of many peoples by spreading in their midst allegorical stories of heroes who are supposed to have gone through experiences similar to that Master Soul, and which every human ego should emulate. The wisdom religion, or Theosophy, is the drama of the unfoldment of that one life, the springing forth of the many lives from the one life, and the orderly procession of the many as the kingdoms of nature till they re-become one again. So, we see that we talked about this one life in recent days in a previous talk. For those of you who wish to explore it further, please go to Secret Doctrine 1, starting on page 289 to 293. She explains it. But for our purposes is that we start from the unknowable. She calls that the absolute. And come down to the logos. Spiritual energy, power, however you want to call it, it's the same thing. It's expressed in different ways in different religions. There's an unmanifested, there's a manifested logos, and third one is man, manas, Manasa-Putras. So 1, 2, 3. One is unmanifested. I'm not going to write it. Unmanifested is the first one. Manifested logos is the next one. And manas or Manasa-Putras, which designates men, is the third one. So look where we come from. We come from higher intelligences. These higher intelligences are the hierarchies in the secret doctrine. What does she express them as? Dhyan Chohans, or Dhyan. No, hold on. Kathy, is there an A here or not?
For Dhyani.
Or
YA.
Dhyan Chohans. Brain is not spelling very well today. Okay. She calls them Dhyan Chohans. These are the hierarchies. Spiritually, we come from them. There are different hierarchies, and briefly, that correspond to our higher triad is the primary, which gives of its essence. So this is our spiritual essence, which is one life, the same for all. Then we have the Kumaras, which lighted our mind. They are Dhyan Chohans also. She says these beings are occupiers of the constellation Capricorn. So our mind is lighted up by them. Then we have the Pitar Fathers, who gave their Chhaya for building our astral body, and on that model the physical is constructed. To continue with that, she just is telling us that we start from here, come to existence, and this is the most concrete manifestation is Earth. We're in the middle and a little bit further away or progressed than the 4.5 rounds. Our return journey we last week discussed is going to be back home. Coming down into substance is one energy. Going back home, it's the other energy. One is centrifugal. Going back, it's the centripetal. In other words, it's the mind that is going to be enabling us to achieve that feat. Manas has to be purified. Its higher divine aspect is going to be expressed on our return journey. And in the 5th round, she tells us matter or substance is not going to obstruct that principle. It's going to function without substance obstructing it. Now, to continue with this. In this effort, remembering that this return journey requires self-induced, self-devised effort, that nature only moves humanity up to the point of the middle of the 4th round. Once we have become self-conscious entities, this return journey is dependent on each pilgrim as to how they're going to do it. Every stage of that long pilgrimage is described in symbols, and among them that of the adept teacher whose compassion manifests in practical sacrifice and makes him incarnate in a body of flesh and blood. So there's a long line of divine incarnation, and it is necessary to understand it and to help their effort in the universe. Divine incarnations are historical facts. These beings also have personalities which are expression of pure truth. They are wisdom incarnate and word made flesh. Purna avatars, or full incarnations of wisdom, are beings who embody the totality of knowledge gained and retained in the Mahatmic hierarchy. And they are recognized as an occult phenomenon in Theosophy. So, as cycle permit, as stated before, they come before us to bring this message to us. All of the universal religions everywhere on the globe is what they have brought out initially as the root of all religions, which is this, the divine wisdom of ages. So, evolutionary impulse then manifests in sevenfold manner in nature and man. Seven cosmic forces unfold 7 planets. 7 hierarchies of beings beget 7 types of humans. HPB explains that in the Secret Doctrine, that all 7 do not exist, only 3 at present are on Earth. On men-bearing globes of our system, beings who have been men out of deep compassion and the spirit of sacrifice for their fellows incarnate to impress the imperishable center in each man's heart with the supreme and sublime fact that he too can, through purity and knowledge, reach this divine status. So, in collectivity, there's only one being. Just one. So, such compassionate beings then constitute the Lodge of Mahatmas. And from the nursery for the future human adepts on this earth, the tree of wisdom, such as the ever-living human banyan, the spring, the season, in due season in different parts, branches known as Kapila, Hermes, Enoch, Orpheus, etc. So the constitution of the lodge then is sevenfold. In one of the manuscripts, this theosophical expression, the Great Lodge, or the Maha-Shala, comes to notice. It's a Sanskrit term. Maha-Shala, the Great House, or in India it is called the Great School. Great School. In their collectivity, the self-conscious intelligence of these beings, but one being in their collectivity, transcends human comprehension. In that house are lodged 7 types of men, pure rays of light. And last week we read from Sir Bulwer Lytton's description in Zanoni what the higher self is described as in that book. And it's just that, a pure ray of light. Each an issue of the 7 sacred planets called 7 lords. Rishis by the Brahmanas, Amesheshpentas by the Zoroastrians, archangels by the Christians. Of these translucent men, it is stated, they can no longer err. translucent. They appear on earth, but at the origin of every new human race. Which way are we going now? What is going to come next in humanity for us? According to the secret doctrine, and from all of HPB's writings, she tells us that the precursors of the 6 sub-rays are already amongst us. So it is the 6th we are the 5th sub-race. The Aryan race is the 5th. We're the 5th sub-race of that Aryan race, and it is the 6th that is coming out next, 6th sub-race. They come at the junction or close of 2 ends of the small and great cycle and are known as avatars or incarnations. Their stay among mortals is exactly the time required and no more to impress upon the plastic minds of child humanity the eternal verities which they embody in their own being. Such impress remaining vivid, though latent in mankind, as innate ideas. Innate ideas. So here's the true source of every common belief in revelation, which is not of books read or hymns heard, but the truth impressed in the heart of man. This is done so as to ensure that the eternal truths from being utterly lost or forgotten by the forthcoming generations. So as a result of this spiritual mission then, some souls, however few in number, make the supreme effort to follow the noble example set by the great sacrifice. In every cycle and every race of men, these souls then have they strive to express in thought, in word and deed, that impress made their own hearts. So, successes among such strivers, we said, become adepts and initiates. So, when someone claims that they are one of those, we better verify what is being said here to find out if the statement is true. Because there are also a lot of false prophets amongst us today. So, when we look around the world then, all of the myths are personifications of powers, divine, cosmic, primary, secondary, and it is due to the 7 chief deities and their correlations. These 7 in their spiritual collectivity constitute a supreme unity to which can never be offered profane worship. That supreme unity casts its radiance on earth and is the lodge of Mahatmas. So then, this inheritance of ours, which is dormant in every heart as innate ideas, can be activated. This impress referred to. One awakened, it gives the human being an inner perceptive power and shows to the inner light what that human being in actuality is. We appear as a physical human being. On the inner side of our nature, we're not physical. Who or what are we? We just said we're the one life. She says in the secret doctrine, this is boundless. It is beyond time and space. So the essence that we come from is limitless. The essence is the same as that. So, by activating our dormant centers, we can in actuality know who we are. The real awakener of the human soul and mind is the study of Theosophy, wisdom of the ages, and by enacting in our own lives the actions of the great ones, we emancipate ourselves and learn the lesson of renunciation. Each one of us is a child of these gods. If you want to call them gods or hierarchies or Dhyan Chohans, whatever name you give them, it is the same thing. Each one of us, it is stated, can develop into a son of righteousness, whose life-giving effulgence kills the terrestrial passions, which are the impediments to self-realization. By the help of that hidden principle, we emerge triumphant from the region of lust and iniquity, become karma sakshin, which means witness of the karma of men, and in all the glory of regeneration, we arise as the Graha Raja, king of the constellations, and are addressed as Gab Nashman, repossessed of his rays. So those primary deities that we talked about in the manifested logos are pure rays of light. And we will finish it this way. That which is written can be read, that which is spoken can be heard, but there is that in the expression of these mighty masters which can neither be seen nor heard, but which can be known in the hollow of the head and fully realized in the chamber of the heart. That heart, then, is the central spiritual one. So we come from all different expressions of the same thing. And when ready, we return to that same light we came from. So we say, Thou residest in the agglomeration of thy divine personages. Thou begettest us, O the unknown, and we greet thee in worshipping each God soul which descendeth from thee and liveth in us. So now we will open it for questions. It's very brief, it's a very wide subject, we can hardly touch on it, but in concept, that's what it is. Yeah.
This great philosophy, and we get these examples. Why do we get so stuck on the examples? For example, the story of Jesus being one person. Nobody else can be like that.
I think it is addressed in the Secret Doctrine. HPB says that the messenger never claims such for himself or herself. The messenger is here to do a particular work, and he comes and does it regardless of however much opposition there is to it. It delivers the message, in other words. What's the message? It's not different. She says that if we, through comparative study, look at all the religions, their root message is the same. They don't differ. Neither Muhammad, nor Krishna, nor Buddha, nor Jesus ever claim uniqueness for himself. They simply come and deliver the message. But in time, it is dwarfed because the human mind, according to what it can understand, then gives these qualifications to the messenger does never, ever qualify it for himself or herself. They are simply here from that same lodge, perfected beings, giving to the world part of that wisdom religion under whatever era, under whatever name, or to whatever section of humanity it is brought. It is the same message. It comes from the same root. Only human beings make that messenger unique, and so it becomes a dogma. The original messenger does not have that in mind. Muhammad actually came to clarify the points in Christianity. His followers made a different, separate religion out of it. But the point is, in the West, this message that was brought by Joshua ben Pandira, that's the real name of Jesus Christ, that was the human being on earth, has been changed. Has been changed. Karma and reincarnation was in it at the beginning of it, and the Gnostic fathers of this wisdom religion and the Christian fathers were all of the same background when this stuff came out. Joshua ben Pandira, according to the Mahatmic records kept, came 150 years prior to our historic era. Jesus Christ is not a historic figure. There is absolutely no historical information about such a being. The one that was on the scene was Apollonius of Tyana. He was here 1st century AD. He is the one on the scene, not Jesus Christ. He was here 150 years prior to the historical era. Anyway, that is not the subject of this talk, and it is not here to produce controversy, but this is according to the Mahatmic record. This is what is being given out.
So just a follow-up question. We effectively don't get the message because we box ourselves in with dogma. Is that what you're saying?
We don't
you
get
said
the.
We can't understand it.
The primary objective of the comer is to show again and align ourselves to the wisdom religion, not to make a separate incident out of it, but to realign ourselves in our heart and mind to the original message, which is the innate ideas which are inherent in the human heart. He comes to germinate those ideas and give them an impulse to flower or flourish in the human beings that he has come to influence. That is his objective, not to give another a different set of rules, regulations, or philosophy. It's the same philosophy, it's just clothed differently. It's in different words according to where it is brought. It is addressed to the understanding of that population it has come to. It's not different. Yes?
Did you say there were 7 hierarchies that...
Yes, 7.
They gave rise to was it the geographical original men?
Yeah, there were 7 root races. Each one an issue of that primary 7 deities that are called the Lords of Being.
So would the Mahatmas descend be directly from the highest of the heart?
They each represent one of these roots. There are 7.
So there's 7.
There are 7.
There's
7 different
seven
hierarchies, 7
humans.
different lines of this represented in the Maha-Shala. Yep. 7 deities, 7 primaries, and each race represents one of those rays. One ray. But in their totality, they're one being. So that should give you some idea that there is really no difference, that we're all coming from that one unity. In their 7 rays, but just like the sunlight, when you put the white light in the prism, it goes from what? Red to violet. 7 rays in it. So are these.
So each race would have
It represents
different
a ray.
abilities.
Yeah.
Different abilities.
Yeah, and it's not color. It's not the skin color. It's the quality on the inside. It's not the skin color, because India has gone really bonkers with this concept and made it external color, but it is the qualities. Qualities. Because we cannot say we are one brotherhood and then differentiate ourselves according to color. That is not what it is meant. There's an article about it in one of those books where it says that whether you come from the head or the feet of Brahma, it does not define any difference. It's just that you're suited to a particular line of development more than the others. For instance, some people are Kshatriyas. What is this?
It's the warrior class.
Yeah.
Chhayas.
That quality, that courage is expressed in this here. You have the courage to go forward to the unknown. This is the warrior quality. Some are what? Teachers. And where do we come from? Adept teachers, right? And HPB says where you're at the bottom or you're at the top, you're represented by that same lineage. Each guru has a guru above and a para-guru above. Each guru also has a student below, and each student has another student below. So there is that Guruparampara chain from the bottom up. Those of us who are trying to get on the path, those who are on the path, those companions who are in the world and help those who are trying to get on the path, whether we know it or not, they have their agents in the world all over the universe. But it is up to each student to try to find those agents through what? Purity of life. Purity of essence has to be an expression in purity of life as to how we live.
So the three you said are left. There's only 3 in the modern
World.
today.
Yeah.
And those, are they represented by those castes? Or?
Well, you have to use your imagination a little bit. What is the Western world exhibiting the most? Materialism, is it not? So, trade. That would be what is expressed in the West. We don't express the spirituality very much, but commercialism, trade. Sorry. Who represents this in the universe the most? Jewish people. Sorry, you had a question.
I have a question about Kumaras and the what was the fathers? The
Pitars?
Pitar Fathers.
Yeah.
Did they also descend at some point into matter, or how did they evolve?
Yeah,
Were
they
they
did.
humans as well?
They did. They incarnated first in the physical
If
forms.
they lit in the mind of the humans,
Yeah.
who
but
lit
they-
their mind when they were humans?
we were lighted up from the previous Manvantara.
Uh-huh.
It's an endless process. First they were human beings, then became what? Universal, then cosmical. That chain goes up and up. So the Kumaras are a hierarchy in the Dhyan Chohanic compilation of that information in the secret
But
doctrine.
like in the very first cycle, who lit in the mind?
Well, it's an endless cycle. It's an endless cycle.
No beginning, no end.
There is no beginning and no end, according to this philosophy, that each yuga or each cycle is connected to a larger cycle, and the larger cycle is within another larger cycle. And what is the manvantaric expression of the cycles? It is how many trillions of years?
311 trillion.
Yeah.
Some billion.
Yeah, 311.40 billion years is one manvantara. We are within that cycle. We have lived the golden, the silver, the bronze. This is the Kali Yuga. And within this Kali Yuga, again is going to rise the golden age. But she says it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And she's appealing to those natures who could understand her when she was on earth and left that legacy of lineage to follow. In other words, the current is here, right? She established a current in the mind of the humanity she came to. She was in India, England, here in America. She was from Russia, so she has that legacy. She traveled in South America. She traveled in Middle East. She was trained in Tibet by the Master's Lodge. So she went all over the place. She is not bringing dogma. She went to each area and was introduced by that lodge to the key individuals in all religions. She brought this knowledge with her and put it, she says, nothing is mine. Only the string or the ribbon that I tied it with is mine. She gathered it and she put it in that book for us so that there was something for the future generations to go to that book and get the knowledge out of it, and not be fooled by charlatans in the world, which intermittently come and have their own agenda to promote. So this is also true for the Theosophical movement. Unfortunately, I'm very sad to say it, but every student's objective is not to give pure philosophy to the world. They have their own agenda to follow, and that is what they're promulgating. And the secret doctrine in its originality is only kept by the printers in LA. The rest of them has been changed. One of them has 40,000 changes in it. So, and where we come and to what book we come is also karma. Our karma brings us to wherever it is that we have come. And you have to sometimes rise above it, determining for yourself what is true and what is not. This student doesn't go to the others because at this stage of development cannot differentiate what they have done to it. I can't say it. So I stay with the pure teachings because I am not able to differentiate what is the interjections that they have put in there. I cannot tell. Yeah. So Pitar Fathers gave their Chhaya, which is their what? Ethereal body. And so that's our astral body, and on that model, this one was built. So they had to physically incarnate in those at the beginning of the Manvantara when the bodies were perfected. And remember, she talks about the angelic fight in the heavens. 1/3 of them refused to incarnate, saying that the bodies are not ready. So they left us mindless for a long time, and during that period in the third race, even though the mind was lighted at the middle of that third round, the entities, even though they were spiritual, they mixed with things that they were not supposed to mix. And the fourth Atlanteans repeated it knowingly because their third eye was still open. They were spiritual, and knowingly they conducted themselves inappropriately for humanity at that stage. And she says in the secret doctrine that is when we did our highest karmic debt. We are the Atlanteans reincarnating. Now, in this philosophy, karma and reincarnation at the beginning was not even talked about, because in India, in Ceylon, Tibet, Burma, China, most of China, Japan, all those areas, karma and reincarnation is an accepted philosophical basis. But in the West, it's missing. So this philosophy cannot be built on one lifetime message, because who of us, for instance, from childhood to adulthood, we go through all these stages of growth. We sleep, we have to learn, then we go to school, we have to learn, then we have careers, we have families. Who of us can actually grapple or grasp this philosophy in one lifetime and become perfected? It's an impossibility. So karma and reincarnation needs to be inserted into the Western teachings. Her ideology was just that let us reintroduce the truth to the West, and let the opening mind then grapple with the issue of one life and see if it is acceptable to the inner life of that soul entity. And she brought it out for that reason, introduced it to the West, to move the Western mind towards the Eastern philosophy, because she says in the future it is necessary that the East and the West come together, and on that unity a new order of things will be built. Yeah.
We talked about this cycle coming down, centrifugal, is that what you call it?
Yeah.
And back up to centripetal. Are these concurrent? Are these?
Yeah, they both exist.
They both exist. So we have some folks coming down, if you will, and others going up all at the same time?
No. The human race entry has been shut off. There's no other coming in.
So are we going up at the same rate?
No. Everybody is not at the same place that you're going to be going
So
up
we're
at the
spread
same
out
rate.
all over the place trying
No,
to get
we're
back up.
each human soul is developmentally different than the other one. So according to where you are in your development, that's where you are. And you cannot be forced. This philosophy has to appeal to your inner nature. In other words, your inner nature, the soul, has been awakened to its own progressive possibilities. This is not something that somebody is going to come and tell you from the outside, and you say, "Oh, voila, now I have now awake." It doesn't happen that way. Mr. Judge says in one of his articles that this request to the higher entity has to be constantly put forth, and that it is answered at the right time. In other words, it's internal to each human soul. So, coming down, it's centrifugal. And going up, it's centripetal. And these energies, she says, have to be balanced at all times. Otherwise, the soul would lose its opportunity in this life. In other words, one would go mad. Have to have it balanced.
So you're saying that as a human, I have to use my own self-induced and self-devised methods.
After
Climb
this
up that
point, you
circle
do.
Up there.
Up to this point,
Let's say I'm sort of happy where I'm at.
well, you might be.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think we were in New York and somebody asked that question, and Tom was the speaker, and she says, "I'm not willing to do any of this work. I'm lazy. I just want to be left alone." And he said, "Well, you know what happens to obtuse people?" She says it at the beginning of the Secret Doctrine. This philosophy is not for obtuse people. In other words, lazy people. I had to look the word up. I didn't know what it meant. She means that you have to dig up the kernels of gold in that book. There is a occult side of that book, as well as the one that you read with your eyes. Yeah. So as you develop, you get more out of it. But
So I just
Up-
dig out what I like out of it, and the rest of it I'll leave.
Well, let me
alone.
please answer your question. Up to this point, nature move everything forward. So you're in that general
Nature-
move.
But
Nature
nature's
meaning
not moving me forward. I'm
law.
having to do it myself.
nature's law moves everything forward towards a higher expression of itself. All of the kingdoms get moved forward. But once we reach this point, you're a self-conscious human being. You have a mind. You have choices to make. No one can force you to accept or reject or however you want to live your life, you have that choice to make for yourself. With that comes responsibility. And this is what's missing in the West. That because of that one life and you're forgotten, you're forgiven, or vicarious atonement, she says, this responsibility has been taken away from people. Because people think that in the last phase of their life they can say, I'm terribly sorry and Jesus is going to accept me into his arms and I'll be forgiven. There's no such law. There's no such law. Forgiveness is for your soul to be able to move forward with. But in nature, when you make an error, the nature gives you an opportunity to correct your error. It doesn't forgive you in the sense that you put this impulse into the world and you disharmonize your environment or a particular person, or you upset someone, whatever the situation may be, but you can mitigate that situation by taking correct action. If you know you have done something wrong, you can correct it. And the example given was, say a physician does something wrong and the child is delivered with a defect during the birthing period process. Something he did causes this. Well, here the doctors will not perhaps accept that, but the correct thing would be to say it was due to my error, so I accept the outcome of this error and help that child grow to the best potential that that child has. Help the family absorb the cost of raising a child in this society with whatever defect that came about from the birth process. That was the example given. Well, this is all the time. Yes, I have another question.
Question about the responsibility, because when at least in the Christianity there is a heaven, it's still me going to that heaven, so I sort of feel like maybe I shouldn't do something. But when you start thinking that person will not even remember me, I will not remember that person in the next life. Responsibility is, I feel like, a little bit reduced, because that will be almost a different being. That connection is not there. It's me who will suffer. It's
Okay, you can look at it that way, but you cannot really look at it that way. Let me tell you why. First, you are this triad. Atma, a spirit, Buddhi, a spiritual wisdom or spiritual soul, and mind. This entity is your individuality. And whatever it is you do in any one life, this individuality retains the memory of it. It's recorded. Where is it recorded?
Akashic record.
So, the personality, which is the quaternary, which is passions and desires, lower mind, linga sarira, which is your astral body, and your physical body, does not retain the memory of what you have done, because in each life you get a new brain, you get a new body. The body disperses, but what comes back to you are the skandhas. Those retain the memory. The skandhas are the things left over from this life that you did not address, or you addressed them incorrectly. And so karmically you have impressed electromagnetically all those lives that constitute the skandhas. They await for your return from that devakanic or heaven interlude where you have assimilated what you have learned in the previous life. You're coming out hopefully as a higher individuality to be able to do greater work for humanity. But the skandhas, the things that you did not complete their journey towards perfection, will be your lot in the next incarnation. So you cannot say, just because I don't remember it, I'm not responsible. You are responsible, but your memory is not there, and that's why we feel such indignity towards things that happen to us. We think that it's just coming out of the air, where it isn't. It is coming back as an effect of the activity you had conducted in the previous life. Whether you remember it or not is inconsequential. Its result will be back coming to
I
you.
think one of an example.
Let her finish.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Just a simple question. How do you access skandhas? It seems like your homework, but if you don't know what your homework is, how do you score A?
The skandhas are the molecular remains of the things that you had not made part of your higher triad by perfecting them. So the memory in the atoms have memory of their kind. Remember what HPB says in Psychic and Noetic Action? The atoms are psycho-spiritual. That each atom is a world on its own, and each atom awaits in its turn to become man in some future manvantara. So your impress is electromagnetic. These are psycho-spiritual beings. Atoms retain the memory of what you have impressed on them. Whether it was wicked or good, it is what it is. So in each gland, in each organ system, there's a memory. They're not all the same. They retain the memory appropriate to that particular life that they live. They only know what to do perfectly well one thing. If your thinking process interferes with what they're doing and they're not doing it correctly, the responsibility is yours. Yes?
You in effect answered my question, which was, your brain may not remember that you didn't know that person in a previous life, but you do. There's indications. For example, you may be attracted automatically. Seems like it's automatic to another person, or
Sympathy.
repelled by them.
Yeah, there is sometimes sympathetic bonding, and the opposite exists when people do not accept you into their aura, right? You feel that push. So there are those we get along with very well, and there are those we do not. Mr. Judge's recommendation is, those you don't get along with very well, make every effort to make them get along with you well, because in your next incarnation, you are going to come back and deal with it again if you don't sort it out in this one. So, thank you very much.
Okay, join us next week for our ULT Day. Thank you.